A container falls into the ocean and it looks small. One box disappears against a giant ship, thousands of other containers, and endless water. But losses like this are exactly why international rules became stricter for the merchant fleet from 1 January 2026. Because one lost container is not just a financial loss, it is a hidden hazard on a shipping route, a source of pollution, an insurance fight worth millions, and a story that can end anywhere, on the seabed, on somebody else's shore, or in an international investigation. And the deeper you go into this subject, the stranger the picture becomes. The ocean does not only take cargo away, it sometimes gives it back. And global trade still cannot name an exact number for how many containers have been lost in container shipping history. A container does not fall into the sea on its own. Before that, there is almost always a whole chain of causes: the wrong declared weight, poor cargo distribution, overloaded top tiers, worn lashings, a heavy wave, the wrong course angle, dangerous rolling. On a container ship, every ton does not act alone. It presses on the whole stack beside it, and every wave impact passes through the hull and lashings across dozens of rows at once. The ugliest mode for ships like this is called parametric rolling. A ship does not have to sink or lose power for danger to start. The vessel can still look fully under control from the outside, while the rolling amplitude suddenly rises to the point where multi-ton containers start taking critical loads. That is why some of the loudest incidents do not look like movie disasters at all. They look like an ordinary voyage where the ship keeps going while lashings are already snapping and stacks are already shifting on deck. A fresh example came in March 2026 when the container ship OOCL Sunflower, in heavy weather in the North Pacific, lost containers overboard and had others on board damaged and shifted. Different reports gave figures from at least 32 to as many as 57 containers lost. The key point is that the ship did not disappear or turn into a total wreck, but it was still serious enough to trigger navigation warnings and coastal services. From that moment, the container stops being part of the cargo and becomes an independent threat. A half-submerged container is hard to spot in rough water. A damaged container can break open. Its cargo can spread across the sea. For a small vessel, that steel box becomes an almost invisible obstacle. That is why amendments to the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, known as SOLAS, from 1 January 2026 require the immediate reporting of lost and sighted drifting containers to nearby ships, the nearest coastal state, and the flag state, with the coordinates, time, number of containers, and the presence of dangerous goods. The world has officially recognized one simple thing: after a container goes overboard, the story is not over. It is just beginning. The most deceptive part is that for years the overall statistics looked almost reassuring. The World Shipping Council said in its 2025 report that 576 containers were lost at sea in 2024, 221 in 2023, and the 10-year average stands at 1,274 containers a year. Against more than 250 million containers moved by sea each year, that share looks microscopic. To someone looking only at percentages, the problem almost disappears. But the sea does not count in percentages. What matters is not the overall percentage, but the consequences of each single loss. One container with ordinary goods can already become a hazard on a route. One container with chemicals, batteries, or plastic pellets becomes an environmental problem. One storm event involving hundreds of containers breaks the logic of the whole shipment and starts an international chain of warnings, claims, and investigations. The best-known example in recent years is one APIS, which lost or damaged more than 1,900 containers in 2020. After cases like that, it became clear that a rare inconvenience is the wrong definition. It is more accurate to say this: a rare event with massively disproportional consequences. And this is exactly where viewers usually want to argue with the numbers. So write in the comments what you think. Over the whole history of container ships, has humanity lost thousands of containers, or has the real count long since gone into the tens of thousands? Watch this breakdown to the end, because the final answer is the most uncomfortable in the whole story. How many containers the world has definitely lost according to confirmed counts, why there is still no complete number for the entire era, and how much money this really costs. The strangest part of the story starts next, where the ocean sometimes gives lost cargo back to people. After hitting the water, a container disappears from sight, but it does not disappear from reality. That is where its second life begins, and that is what makes this topic so strong for YouTube. Some containers sink quickly as water gets in through damage. Some stay afloat for a while, or remain half-submerged. It is the half-submerged container that is considered one of the nastiest objects at sea, because it is hard to see, especially in rough conditions. And for a small vessel, it becomes an almost underwater obstacle. Then the ocean takes over: waves, wind, current, and time. A container can split open. It can lose its doors. It can burst apart after hitting a shoreline, and its contents begin spreading across a huge area. At that moment, dry logistics suddenly turns into a very strange story, where somebody else's cargo starts washing up in places it was never meant to reach. One of the best-known examples came after the MSC Napoli accident off the coast of the United Kingdom. Containers and goods washed ashore, and people headed to the beach in large numbers to collect fines, effectively turning the wreck site into a spontaneous hunt for somebody else's property. For the authorities, this became not only a rescue and environmental problem, but also a public order problem. And that is one of the strongest facts in the whole topic. The ocean does not simply swallow containers. Sometimes it gives them back, but now in the form of rubbish, somebody else's loot, a legal fight, and a new danger. The earlier the loss position, container count, and cargo type are known, the better the chance of warning other ships, preparing the coastline, and cutting the damage. That is why the new International Maritime Organization requirements do not look like a formal paper measure. They look like a late admission of reality. A container does not end at the point where it falls. It keeps moving through the world, but now outside the control of the system that was supposed to deliver it. Now to the most uncomfortable question in this whole subject, the one that seems simple at first and then turns into something almost embarrassing for global trade. There is still no exact official figure for how many containers have been lost since containerization began in 1956. The first successful container voyage, Ideal X, sailed in 1956. But reliable industry counts from the World Shipping Council exist only from 2008 onward. For the period from 2008 to 2022, the Council estimated average losses of 1,566 containers a year. That gives about 23,490 containers over 15 years. Add the confirmed 221 containers from 2023 and 576 from 2024, and you get a minimum of about 24,287 containers for the documented era of 2008 to 2024 alone. The real number for the whole history of container ships since 1956 is definitely higher, but nobody knows exactly how much higher, because there has never been a single counting system across the full historical period. The money side is just as brutal. There is no single global figure for total losses across the whole era either, but individual accidents show the scale. After the one Apis incident, insured and cargo losses were estimated at more than $200 million, and that was just one voyage, one ship, one storm. Who pays for that? First, cargo insurance is triggered. Then the cold audit begins. Was the cargo declared correctly? Was the weight stated correctly? Were the packing rules followed? Was dangerous cargo described properly? Where exactly does carrier liability sit? And does the case fall under general average, where extraordinary expenses are shared among the parties in the maritime venture? In the past, these incidents were more often seen as a dispute between the shipping company, the cargo owner, and the insurer. Today they are seen more broadly. A lost container is at the same time a financial loss, a navigational risk, an environmental threat, and an international safety problem. And that is why the final answer sounds much harsher than expected at the start. The world has definitely lost not hundreds, and not just a few isolated containers. The confirmed minimum for 2008 to 2024 alone has already passed 24,000 containers. The real historical total since 1956 is higher than that, but nobody can name it with absolute precision. That gap is exactly what explains why the 2026 rules matter so much. Global shipping has finally started treating a lost container not as a minor loss, but as an event that must be counted, recorded, and reported to the whole maritime world right away.